Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast, where we talk about why today's headlines are important for your success at work. My name is Peter Raybar. I should be your first call on legal issues.
And I'm Laura Brownstein. I should be your first call on anything related to comms or content. All right, Peter, you have a nice tan from being on the West Coast for a moment.
Thank you. It was good to be out in LA, not for the Grammys, but I saw there's a lot of musicians on my flight.
Really? Like who?
I don't know. There was just a lot of instrument cases.
Oh.
I think I had the support staff flight. We had a lot of, no big names, but everybody seemed to be going to the Grammys. So it was fun. It was not why I was there, of course. But I just wanted to congratulate you on not being in the latest release of the Epstein files. I, of course, when they came out, searched a bunch of names and made sure.
Thank you.
Both of us weren't in there.
I'm going to go right into our list of topics, since one of them is directly related to that.
Oh, wow.
We're going to talk about leaders in the Epstein files and how your company can safeguard itself against finding out that your executives are doing dirty deeds. We are also going to talk about a new term Peter brought to my attention, which I love, peanut butter raises. They're not as delicious as they sound. Various lawsuits and pushback around government, various ways that our government is engaging with business in ways that I think would make Ronald Reagan turn over in his grave. But we'll talk about it. And then a CEO who fired employees for a sort of nasty little reason.
Yeah, petty. Maybe a little petty. Yeah, all right.
Moment.
There was a lot to talk about this week. So, people always ask me.
You have been messaging me nonstop about all of the big law people that you keep finding in the Epstein files.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's big lawyers in there. Of course, there's people in every industry, it seems. It's amazing the network that this man assembled and the number of people who are actually in his orbit. But in the legal world, there's definitely some big names, including Brad Karp, who's the chair of Paul Weiss.
Now, why do I remember the name Paul Weiss?
Yeah. Why do we remember Paul Weiss?
Why it was in the news recently?
Well, Paul Weiss was curiously the second firm targeted by this administration in their crackdown on law firms, and the first firm to just settle without much attempt to do anything else. And I think there's now, with this revelation of its chairman,
might be looked into differently,
being in the files and not just named, but having dinner with Epstein and Woody Allen and
being like
asking Epstein for help with jobs.
No, that was my favorite part. He asked Epstein to try to get his kid an internship on a Woody Allen film.
Yeah, maybe there were other reasons why they settled so quickly. Who knows? But here we have a leader of one of the biggest law firms in the world name. Of course, we talked last week about the general counsel of Goldman Sachs being named in the last release. And then in this release, it got even worse. And there's apparently a Goldman Partners meeting happening where this may be discussed. But we see now.
I just saw for the first time that Kathy Roomler was having an affair with Epstein's lawyer, it seems.
Allegedly. Let's be careful.
Yes.
There was that allegation. There was multiple emails about her receiving gifts from Epstein, including a Birkin bag. Do you have a professional friend who would buy you a Birkin bag?
No, but I want to have one.
Yeah, I think that's kind of extraordinary.
Peter, maybe when we make our first million on Across the Bar, maybe you'll get me a Birkin.
I think that would be justified, but certainly it's an indicator of something beyond a casual relationship. There's fresh questions about her capability of continuing in her role, which I learned this week also includes that she's chair of Goldman's conduct committee. Congratulations, Goldman. That's a great choice.
Dead. She also has not apologized. Like Brad Karp, Larry Summers, I feel like Bill Gates today, a lot of these people are now mea culpaing, and sure, maybe a little too late, but I looked it up. She has not done any apologizing.
No, she
Yeah.
probably won't. She probably won't. Brad Karp didn't even really apologize. I mean, his explanation actually doesn't make sense.
What was it?
There was an explanation that he was hired by Apollo to handle a fee dispute with Epstein. Okay, sure, but why are you going to dinner with him? Why are you going to dinner with an adversary, and not like a lawyer adversary, like the opposing party? Why are you going to dinner with him and asking him to get your kid an internship?
Yeah.
It's a little odd, I would say.
Right.
And then we have the individuals like Peter Attia who got slammed, and
Yes.
so it's interesting for many reasons. I mean, if you're running a company, of course you always have to. We talked about gauging your reputational risk, and also if you're going to keep these people on, what does that say to the rest of your employees? I mean, as I said, keeping on a general counsel, or in this case, Brad Karp, keeping on a chairman of the firm. These are people charged with enforcing rules and policies, who hold other people accountable for following the company's policies. And if you're not going to, take action on them for something like this, then how can you take actions against other people who may say something, or do something that's, a lot less serious, right?
Here's how I'm going to push back a little bit. It's coming from the top at this moment, from the government, that the message, do what I say, not what I do. Trump has never pretended to model the behavior that he wants others to exhibit. And maybe we are now in a place where we're saying the quiet part out loud, like white billionaire men can do these things, and really not okay for anyone else to. But if you're like a nice white guy and you have a lot of money, we're probably gonna let it go. Like, doesn't it seem like that is actually, whether we want it to be true or not, what is the reality at the moment?
Well, we're seeing that in two parts. One is we're seeing that those rich and powerful people, they're not all men. They are pretty much all white, and there are some women involved, not many. They felt like they could do this in the first place, and that they were just invincible and nobody would come after them. And then secondly, we're now seeing their institutions stand behind them and not take action against them. And I think that's the part that really sends a bad message. Like,
Yes.
You look at someone like Peter Attia, he's like a self-made person. He got destroyed. He had no institution to stand behind him, and he wasn't truly a billionaire or powerful person. He got crushed in a way that these others didn't. So yeah, I agree with you, and I think you see it in two parts: one, in people willing to engage in the conduct, and two, their companies tolerating it. And I would just say good luck. Like, it's just going to fuel a lot more resentment and perhaps reactive behavior from your employees in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
and clients and customers, by the way. I mean, there are going to be ramifications to this, and I guess all these firms are assessing, how bad they're going to let it get before they take action.
yeah.
Or they're negotiating exits. That's also very possible. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it does get harder and harder when what's happening at the top does not support integrity in a code of ethics. But it'd be interesting to see what happens to all of these people. Okay, peanut butter raises, which again sounds good, but
much less controversial topic.
Yes. Where did you read about this first?
I think there was I've seen it in a couple of places, but it was, and I've heard about it certainly from clients, but I think it was in Fortune this week, the concept that more companies are moving towards not rewarding their highest performers with raises, and instead giving smaller raises across the board to all employees. And
And called peanut butter because it's spread thin all the way across.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, you wonder why they didn't go with almond butter. They went with peanut butter, probably wider use. But look, every company is going to have a different philosophy on this, and I've worked on these type of actions and these decisions in the past where companies decide to give a smaller raise to a larger group of people, and I can tell you usually the impact is nobody's happy with that, because no one likes a small raise, especially in the context of skyrocketing costs of living that we've been facing for the past couple of years and continue to face. and economic uncertainty. Like, no one's going to handle that news well. And to the extent you have high performers, pay is certainly one way to keep people motivated. And what are you saying to them? Usually the message that ends up coming through is not some care and concern for their colleagues. Everyone thinks about themselves at work. The message that comes through to them is, you don't value my contribution.
Yeah.
And so, to me, there's nothing wrong with differentiating pay as long as you're doing it for legal reasons. What do you think about it?
I think yes and no also on this. Well, by the way, it was a report from payscale.com that said that this was happening more. I think that it is a huge savings, I would imagine, in time and managers' time to not demand the depth of reviews and analysis that would give a reliable system, reliable rationale for merit-based raises. I think companies will save a lot of time and resources if they don't do merit-based increases for raise, if they just give everybody the same number. I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's just managers will save a lot of time.
That sounds kind of lazy to me.
It sounds like using your resources on more important things.
What could be more important than making sure your employees are happy?
Robots.
Oh, okay.
But also, I remember many times in the media magazine industry where we knew it was a dark time for the industry, and when the editor-in-chief said everybody is just getting this small raise, we knew it was to save jobs. Like, in a small enough place with a beleaguered industry, I think if you explain it, it can be okay. Like, in 2009, Condé Nast did a whole lot of layoffs, obviously, after, the collapse of 2008. And our leader at the time, my editor-in-chief, just was honest and said, the revenue didn't come in this year in the same way. I can show you the numbers, how much less revenue the magazine made this year. I'm going to do the best I can by everybody, but it's going to be the same low amount across the board. And everybody was just kind of like, yeah, I want all of us to get something.
Well, if that's the reason why it's being done, certainly that's a different story. And I agree with you. Context has to be provided in that situation.
But it's an internal communications issue in a big way. If you are changing the structure of how people are compensated or getting raises or bonuses, you really have to have some transparency and help people to understand it, or they're going to read terrible things into it and resent everyone.
Right. And a lot of times, leaders I've worked with have been afraid to provide that transparency because then they are afraid that information will be communicated externally and have an impact on their business, as if on the reputation of their business or people's willingness to do business with them, if they feel that they're in some sort of financial distress or not healthy as a company. I don't think that's what this article was talking about. I mean, this was, partially like companies
I think
are
that
just
savings in resources is part of what it was talking about.
Well, it's saving money.
Money to really review people. And I think we spend too much time as a society on corporate reviews.
Right, but it's an essential to provide employees with feedback on how they're doing.
Yes.
And some companies are not good at most companies.
But I feel like when I have had big, huge teams, like when I had a 50-person team around the world, it took most productivity time of 2 to 3 weeks on the whole process.
Okay, but it's part of your job. Like, too bad.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say. And the people who work for you, it's really important for them. So there you go, And
I also feel like half of these companies, yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
I mean, if comp and feedback discussions happen once a year, which in most companies they do, then okay. So it takes time. Of course it does. That's my view on it.
I think management then let me say something else. I think upper management has to either support their managers more. We've talked about that a lot. People don't have trainings in being managers.
Agree.
Or just support them in getting it done and prioritizing it. I have never been someplace where that was prioritized. It was like, well, just do that in between other things.
Right. And it goes both ways, by the way. I mean, if you have a star performer, they want to hear that, okay? And they want to be paid accordingly. And if you have a bad performer, you need to document it, because when you go to terminate them, if that is the end result, you need some evidence. Otherwise, you might have a legal problem on your hands, or a potential legal problem. I mean, the messy firings happen when someone doesn't know that it's coming or has no reason to believe it's coming, it just comes out of the blue, or the reason seems suspicious. So companies, and now there are tools to help managers with these things, right? Like AI, and I was reading some research that said you should use AI on performance evaluations after a first draft is written. Yeah.
And I said I agreed with that. So
there's some tools to do it. But look, one of the dangers of this comp approach, I will say, that wasn't in the article, and I haven't seen discussed much, is employees will look at this and say, well, if you're just going to give everyone the same raise and it's pretty shitty, why don't we just have a union in here and just get some job protection and other things with that, and have people argue for greater pay? That's the risk. If you start treating employees like that, that's the risk of collective behavior.
Okay, but once
and
there's
response.
a union, merit-based raises and incentives pretty much go away completely.
Right, but if the employer is saying, I'm not going to give merit anyway, an employee may say, well, okay, if you're going to do that, let's get a union in here.
That's true.
And let me get some job protection, and let me get
That's something to take into consideration.
There you go. All right. Yeah. So it's dangerous. Don't do it. Peanut butter, not good in this situation, I would say.
People will be jelly.
There you go.
Okay, now let's talk about our current GOP administration taking the stance that government intervention in business is good. Or that seems to be the stance being taken. At the moment, everyone knows that there has been, coming down from the Supreme Court, there was an undoing of support for DEI regulations, and the Trump administration has gone super hard on telling companies they are not supposed to or not allowed to have DEI policies. Just so everybody remembers, that means they shouldn't have policies to make their workplaces diverse, equitable, or inclusive. And that is coming to bear right now at Nike, and what's the other one? Football club?
Well, there was a lawsuit filed today by the EEOC against Nike and their DEI practices, and we talked a little bit about the EEOC last week.
Yeah.
And now that they're back up and running, and they have this goal of protecting the white worker, and also they've consolidated lawsuit power in the commissioners, not the general counsel. So that means they've really streamlined it straight from the White House to the EEOC. We're seeing them act as an extension, basically, of Stephen Miller's America First Legal Foundation, where they're going to go after. This is going to happen a lot. Nike's probably one of the first ones, but I think they're going to be pretty aggressive in suing companies over diversity programs. And this was.
What no one has ever said walking around Portland. What we need here is more white people.
Or any company. I mean, you go through.
But like,
look, diversity programs in most companies, almost all, are not quotas. They're a set of values and aspirations to be more diverse, provide more opportunities to engage in business practices that could help underrepresented groups get more exposure to a company, get more exposure to leadership positions. I mean, they're still woefully underrepresented. Women, people of color are still woefully underrepresented in the corporate executive ranks. And there's still serious pay equity issues for women and people of color. So now the government is saying, basically, any initiative that helps out people in underrepresented groups is illegal, and we're going to go after you. Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do is undo 70 years of law that protected underrepresented groups in the workplace without actually repealing the law. And some of this work was started by a lawyer named Edward Blum. He's the one who initiated the affirmative action lawsuits against Harvard. and UNC. And he's admitted, he just sits and reads his newspaper and finds a DEI program and then just starts suing these people. And my question back to them, people who use law as a weapon, like in this way, like what's your goal? What are you making better? Like what has improved?
He's making the world better for white guys, right?
What has he done? He hasn't improved anything. Has it improved the college admissions process? No, not at all.
No, but I do think we had a higher rate of white Americans being accepted in early decision.
Well, the rate was already pretty high, right? Like, I mean, it was not a problem. So, it's shameful. And I can't believe, I do a lot of work in the hedge fund world, and Ken Griffin is the founder of Citadel, one of the biggest hedge funds, and was also a huge Trump supporter and general Republican donor. And yesterday, he came out and said, the government interference in business in corporate America and their, preference for favoritism is distasteful. I mean,
and he said, and all my friends say so too.
Yeah, and all my friends say so too.
So Ken Griffin, I looked it up. He has given, according to one source I found, $48 million in the last 10 years to the GOP. Yeah. So if I was one of the fundraisers looking at 2028, I would be hearing him.
Yeah, he's a very powerful person, and he is speaking because he is very powerful, and sounds like he was duped. And I wish he asked me first before donating the money. I would have told him.
You're not saying that
they were lying.
Think the Trump campaign lied to him, right? Because that would be hard.
There's a lot of people out there who feel duped. I mean, frankly, a lot of my friends and relatives who are Persian who voted for this president, believing that he would, stand behind Iran, and on that issue, they feel duped. A lot of people who voted for him based on, support for Israel feel kind of duped. There's some things he's done that are great, but some things he's done that are kind of horrible. There's a lot of Arabs in Michigan who probably feel they were duped.
I'm sorry. That voting bloc in Michigan, I can't. I can't.
Well, it exists. I mean, let's just
Who duped them? No one duped them. I'm sorry. I'm pushing back at that. No one duped them. Okay. The Trump administration was very clear about their policies towards the Middle East. And yet they wanted to stick it to KDH and voted the other way. I'm sorry. I do not give that community was duped.
Well, a big reason a lot of people voted for this president is the belief that there was too much regulation and that they were tired of it. And now they have something worse than regulation that they have to deal with.
More regulation.
It's not even regulation. It's not regulation. These decisions are not going through a process.
I decide I want LB and Partners, my company, to be more diverse. Currently, my only employee is a white Siberian cat. Like, if I'm like, I probably need a black cat on my payroll.
Let me give you an example.
Regulation that is telling me no.
It's not regulation. It's government by executive order by a small group of people who are unelected. I'll give you an example. The EEOC had not regulations. They had guidance. So it's not even law. They had guidance on what constitutes harassment in the workplace. And they enacted those guidelines in several years ago after a notice and comment period where they received 37,000 comments from employers, from employees, from interest groups, and then they enacted these guidelines. They're just guidelines. Provided over 70 examples of conduct in the modern workplace that could or could not be harassment. And the EEOC last week just revoked them with no comment, with no period for anyone to comment. Who is that helping? Nobody. And what process did that go through? None. Okay, so now we're...
Be a little bit more clear. I lost you, so somebody else might. What just got revoked last week?
The guidance on what constitutes harassment from the EEOC.
What constitutes harassment?
Right.
Did they make it easier or harder for someone to be accused of harassment?
Well, now it doesn't help anyone because now employers are left wondering what the EEOC actually considers to be harassment and what they're going to prioritize in enforcement. And employees who are trying to prove it, lose one source of reference in making that case. So it doesn't really serve anybody.
Okay.
And what employers are left with, this is not regulation, what employers are left with is, yeah, if you want to do something or you want the government to do something for you, come buy some coins with some crypto or go set up a meeting with Don Jr. or Eric and we'll get it done. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry to everyone. This is what you voted for. It was pretty obvious to a lot of us. And it's pretty frustrating. I think we'll hopefully hear more corporate leaders speak out against it.
Well,
but I'm not going to hold my breath.
as I've said before, and I don't want to be alarmist, but if we are hoping to have elections this year, people better start making some noise because the Trump administration is making a lot of noise about federalizing elections. Can you explain to people what that means, federalizing elections?
I mean, that means like it's over. That's not. States
Why?
have
Tell
oversight.
everybody that's the lawyer's room.
The states have oversight over their own elections, whether they're state, local, or federal elections. So federal elections that happen are overseen by state election commissions based on state law. Different states have different laws over how elections are conducted, but it is a state process. It's not a federal process. And let's remember that we have a system where there are states' rights and federal rights. We just have to
Our
remind.
president said very clearly yesterday that the states are agents of the federal government
wrong.
in this case.
That's wrong.
And I think that's wrong. I also think, aren't you supposed to be a Republican?
He's not. He's a party of one. Sorry. Okay, let's move on. We've
All right,
done enough.
this is my
of that.
favoritely frustrating story of the week. A group of employees at Pinterest got fired by the CEO because he found out that they had made a layoff tracker, tracking who had been let go, trying to predict who would be let go next. It seems they used some confidential data to make this, to make their tracker. But I feel that this is so obnoxious for the CEO to fire these people because of this. When you are at a company and you know there are layoffs coming, it is the most powerless feeling in the world. Anything you can do to make yourself and the people around you feel a little bit less powerless, a little bit less in the dark is, I get it. What do you think?
Well, what happened here
Secret information.
was also a little worse, where they announced that they were going to lay off all those people, and then there were questions about who it was going to be and who would, and company refused to answer. The company, obviously, in a mass layoff situation, has obligations to disclose not name, but title, age of people evaluated, people laid off, not laid off, under federal law. But this was really so if the employees who made this list, accessed information they were not supposed to access to put together the list, I can stand behind the firing.
Yeah.
But if they were merely, this has happened for years. People talk to their colleagues and they create layoff lists for multiple reasons.
Also, if the engineers at your company are not fucking around and hacking things, they probably suck. This is what engineers do. They hack around with things. They say, I bet we could come up with an algorithm to predict who's going to be laid off. You think so? Okay, let's see. If you have engineers doing that kind of thing, I don't know what your company's doing.
Well, I think a lot of times also when I've seen this happen, and I've seen it happen, people put this together for their colleagues so they can help them find other jobs, so they can refer them out, so they could start GoFundMes, different situations. Today the Washington Post layoff finally happened that we talked about last week, and a third of the staff was laid off, including people who were literally in war zones and found out they were laid off in the middle of Kyiv
while being in a war zone.
Iran.
And just to put a little bit more of a point on this, if Jeff Bezos had saved even half of the marketing budget for the Melania movie and put it towards salaries at the Post, none of these people would have needed to be let go.
Look, it's one thing to do it if you need to do it for the business and you do it in a kind way. It seems like they chose the dumbest, most cruel way to do it. And so employees see that at how their colleagues are treated, and they want to help them and support them.
Now. There's no, they cut out whole teams.
Yeah.
The only way, I also don't understand it from a business model point of view. You and I both know that the New York Times, under the brilliant leadership of Meredith Kopit-Levien, the last few years has been doing incredibly well because of subscriptions they sell to their lifestyle products. The eating newsletter, the watching newsletter, games. And the
Games,
Washington Post
recipes.
cut out all of that. They cut it out, so now they're going to try to make money on just news? Let me know when that works these days.
Yeah, who knows what they're doing, but they did it in a terrible way. And these type of things, employees see their colleagues treated this way. They see other workers at other companies treated this way. And in a layoff context, they just want to help them out. And in this case, they will also want to hold the company accountable. We'll see what happens. If there was a labor board, I'd say Pinterest would be in danger of violating collective rights, but there isn't much of a labor board these days, so they'll probably get away with it. But they'll have to deal with the reputational hit. It seemed very petty and unnecessary, to be honest.
Very much so. Yeah. Okay, I think we are up to our heroes and zeros.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, start with zeros, right? In a world of so many evil people to call out, I will call out Cracker Barrel, which put out a policy this past week that said their employees have to eat Cracker Barrel when they're on business trips as much as possible and avoid other food as a cost-saving measure. So,
My God, that is so funny.
I have a particular sensitivity to unreasonable travel policies, and this is part of a movement called Travelscrimping, where companies are putting unreasonable cost limits on hotel rooms. I think I saw something that said $110 for hotel rooms. I don't even know what kind of hotel that gets you.
I mean, that's disgusting.
I mean, I remember once I was asked to share a room with a colleague on a business trip, and I almost quit. So that's like the
shared beds with colleagues when I was in editorial. That was not even like a thing.
No way.
In my 40s. Yes, I want to say.
Yeah. So look, asking an employee to travel is not an easy thing.
Wait, let me just say, when I was working on the Airbnb magazine for Hearst, we were encouraged to always stay in Airbnbs on trips for that magazine rather than hotels. No, you're not strong enough.
That's different. There's nice Airbnbs or whatever, but asking an employee to travel for work is a huge imposition on the employee, and it puts a strain on their life and their health and whatever. And honestly, you should be taking steps to make it easier for them, not harder. So shame on you, Cracker Barrel.
Shame on you, Cracker Barrel.
It's only so much chicken fried steak that someone can eat anyway.
I don't think I've ever been to a Cracker Barrel. Have you?
Yes.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Who's your zero?
I know this is so boring, but I just can't with the way Donald Trump spoke to Caitlin Collins yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that was
the way
bad.
he speaks to female reporters overall. Why does this seem okay? And I've said this before, and what I really want to try to better understand, are parents no longer telling their kids you shouldn't make fun of someone about their appearance? Are parents no longer saying, like, if someone says something you don't like, you can start calling them names? Like, how is this affecting our culture, our society? And how are these people, the fact that these people are expected to do a good job and stay professional when the President of the United States is screaming stupidity at them? What?
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, Caitlin Collins is awesome and a true professional. She keeps asking the questions no matter what. But my favorite Caitlin Collins story is that we were at a dinner and my mother spotted her across the restaurant and said, I love her. I want to go talk to her. I said, seriously? And she got right up and went right over and talked to her. And Caitlin was super nice to my mom. So I appreciate that. All right. Heroes. Who did you got?
You go first.
Well, mine is Bad Bunny.
Oh, yeah, that's
for
good.
a multitude of reasons. You know, he was the first artist to get up in the Grammys and call out ICE and was brave enough to do that. And what he said about immigrants, how they're not, you know, like, they're not all these things that Stephen Miller says they are, like, was really quite moving. I come from a family of immigrants to the U.S., so really resonated with me. I think he's very brave. And on top of that, he's super talented. And, you know, I'm very much looking forward to the halftime show. I think all the people calling him out and calling out the NFL are total losers. Like, get a life, you know, just sit back and enjoy it and relax. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch. You don't have to make such a big stink over it. But we know you're starved for attention, and it's a good thing to scream about. So Bad Bunny, looking forward to it on Sunday.
Yeah, go Bad. There's probably
and congrats and thank you for being so courageous. In case he's listening.
Yes, I like that
listening.
one.
Yeah, all right. Who do you got?
Yes, mine right. I think mine right now is reading fiction. I am always grateful that my parents raised me to be someone who read fiction. And I know it gives me such an incredible, like, different place to go, different way to be empathetic when you're reading a story about someone else's life, when you're reading about someone else's experiences. And it's really great to get away from the news at this moment in time and any kind of current events. So I know that this is a little bit of a dorky one, but I think everybody get a library card or go buy some books and, you know, read a novel, read something nonfiction, read something that reminds you to have imagination and hope. Because
good one.
Yeah. And especially it's a good time to, like, curl up during the Super Bowl while the football part's happening.
No, come on.
I will be looking at a novel.
No.
Sorry.
Come on. You should be eating, drinking, and support and watching the commercials.
I'm going to eat, I'm going to drink,
and the game.
And read. I multitask.
But I was going to say, and if you're going to follow Laura's suggestion and go, you know, buy a book, don't look at the Washington Post because they eliminated their whole book review section, so they won't have any suggestions for you.
Nope.
On that note.
All right, I think we were a little angrier than normal today, were we?
Energetic, maybe.
Energetic.
Energetic. Great.
I did have an extra caffeinated beverage today.
Okay.
So
that might be it. Mm-hmm. That might be it. Well, thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, sharing across the bar. Thank you, Sadie, for your excellent production work.
Thank you, Sadie.
And we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Take care, Laura.
Take care. Wait. Who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl?
Seattle, 100%.
Okay. Who's the other team?
New England.
Oh, okay, Seattle. I'm with you. Great. Yeah. Aligned.
I hate New England. So let's go Seahawks.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you. Good. Seahawks.
Take care.